It's, first off, the strike is not universal. The strike is against a handful of the major publishers in the industry: Activision, EA, Insomniac, and a number of other companies, Disney, Warner Brothers. And they're all companies and people that we love and respect very much. This isn't any sort of tension with the development side of things, the people that actually create the games. In fact, most of our relationships as performers are very strongly with the developers. Those we work with, those are the producers and the directors, the people that come in and we craft our small facet of the game together with. The publishers are the people that provide the money, pay for the marketing, and then reap most of the benefits of every successful game out there. There's been a lot of discussion about this, and just to clarify, what the voice actors are asking for in the video game realm are, one, transparency, which is when they're negotiating a contract for a game, most games that come to us have code names, like Project VX. You're like, well, cool, like you booked Project VX, like I don't know what that is. You booked Person B on Project VX, I still don't know what this is. Are you cool to work with us on like the very basic pay scale for Project VX? Sure, cool, thank you, sign the contract. All right, we have you locked in this lead character in Halo 6. And you're like, oh. Hold on. So just so our, not even if we as actors know, but as long as our agents know what game we booked, that helps us negotiate a better contract. If the game ends up being a really popular franchise that makes a lot of money, we can negotiate fairly if we're playing a lead character in that. Yeah, that's the transparency element.
It happens all the time. It happened to me on Star Wars Battlefront. It was under a code name, got cast, and my agent called me before I went in because I was the first actor out of our agency working on that project. So she said, let me know when you step out of that session what you're recording on. I stepped in and it was Star Wars. And they just gave me the base rate, you know, and it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you're Star Wars, man. You're Star Wars. And yeah, and so I left immediately and was like, sorry, Sandy, it's Star Wars. And she's like, damn it, because like there's no way to negotiate around that if you don't know what you're going in for. Another thing about that is there's been a few games here recently that they've been very secretive about. We've gone in and they want you to play like a KKK clan member. We had one incident here recently where one of our voice actresses was a mom, and she goes in and they want her to basically play like a prostitute type of a character, which is fine and dandy, except she was like, my sons play video games, and I wish I would have known what I was agreeing to before I walk in, and you're gonna make me say a bunch of like stuff, and like we're actors, that's fine, we can separate that, but it would be nice to know, because not everyone feels that way.
And everyone's comfortable saying.
Not everyone's comfortable saying the N-word repeatedly in a 1920s situation. That was a true story, and then like everyone came out of that horrified because they didn't know what they were recording on, and that sucks. And that's that type of stuff that like people can. You have to think about this when you get to a certain point where like people can pull clips, people can pull like samples of you saying these horrible things out of context that you might not have necessarily agreed to or would have necessarily agreed to until you step in. But once you get in that booth, it's hard to say no. I mean, it's like every other kind of actor horror story that you've heard where once you get on set, you don't want to walk away because then you're well, you don't want to burn a bridge, you don't want to get blacklisted
for your project. Other things that involve this include limiting vocal stress. A lot of video games that you play, especially the military shooters or games that involve a lot of combat, when we go in, it's 2 to 4 hours of screaming straight, full top of the lungs. Grenade! Boogie to your left! Boogie to your right! Boogie behind the red car! Boogie behind the blue car! Boogie on the second floor! Boogie on the third floor!
You have to do grenade, 1 o'clock, grenade, 2 o'clock, grenade, 3 o'clock. True story. You have to do that. Yeah.
At multiple levels of volume for the entire session, and the standard session is 4 hours. I recommend any of you guys try and keep up that consistent volume, shouting pretty much every line every 10 to 15 seconds for a 4-hour process.
And you have a deadline, you have a line count. Like if you don't get a certain amount of lines out in an hour, it's not good.
I know I've done sessions where I've left and lost my voice for a week afterward and lost work because of it. We have friends of ours who've like permanently lost timbers of their voice
Yeah,
because
of
it
course.
damaged it to some point where they cannot play young characters anymore because it's gone.
A good friend of ours, Courtney Taylor, who was the female player character in Fallout 4.
She was Jack in Mass Effect 2.
She was Jack in Mass Effect. She, I think it was actually for Fallout, and she screamed so hard. They worked her so hard, and she screamed for so long that she had to get surgery on her vocal cords after that because she blew out her vocal cords, and then was out of work for a solid 2 months after that because she had to be on vocal rest.
And to finish up here, and on top of that, we're also talking about there's transparency, there's the vocal stress.
They don't have stunt coordinators.
Stunt coordinators
set
on motion capture.
when there's motion capture, yeah. And we're doing stunts. We're doing stunts, and they don't have stunt coordinators.
And a few games where we get there, and we're, like, all right, you're gonna play this one character, and you show like, all right, cool. So we're gonna coordinate this whole fight scene where you get thrown 12 feet off the top of this car,
And hook you up to a harness and yank you.
You're like, okay, well, show me how to do that right. They're like, oh, you don't know how to do that? Like,
I'm a voice actor.
So just having a stunt coordinator on set to help make sure that everything's done safely and protect us as performers and to protect them legally from doing anything they're not supposed to. And the last thing, this is the big sticking point that happens in all the conversation, is a secondary shared prosperity payment. Currently, video games and voiceover is the only structure in voiceover or union acting that doesn't have a residual or back-end payment structure. Now, living as an actor, when you're like, oh, you get paid, $800 for a 4-hour video game session, that's amazing. That sounds like that's ridiculous. That's $200 an hour. You're like, yeah, that's ridiculous if you're working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Most of us in the industry might, if we're lucky, book a session once every 3 or 4 weeks. So for a lot of people, that $800 is part of their job serving a wait staff at a studio. So it's part of the structure is to help us maintain as performers a living extensively as it goes on, and it only kicks in when a game becomes extremely successful. So the last major point we're here is just to see if there is a way that if a game ends up doing really well, there is not even a residual or a percentage, but just one last little payment based on the end, based on how well the game does.
If Call of Duty makes $2 billion, maybe.
Yeah, we'll get tossed an extra 2 session fees. And a lot of it's just getting a structure in there. And there's been a lot of competitiveness implied in this, the us versus the developers. The art teams, the writers, the programmers, the 3D modelers, they don't get any sort of back-end pay. Why should you? And I'm like, yeah, they should.
They should. Sucks for them too.
Yeah, a lot of our friends work in game development, all across the board. I worked in the industry for 7 years on the dev side. But there's also the threat from the publishers that if they ever try and unionize and stand up, if all the artists in our team were like, hey, we're not going to work on this game because we feel like if the game does well, we should be given some sort of benefit to that, share in the prosperity of the game, then the publishers will go, okay, cool, you're all fired, we're going to hire a bunch of new kids out of college. And that's the argument from the publisher's side. And so we can't fight for the dev side as actors, we can only fight for our own contracts, but we hope in one way, maybe to inspire the rest of the industry to start talking out against these 80+ hour crunch weeks with no secondary payment, while a lot of these publishers are at the end of the year talking about like, oh, well, the president of Activision made a bonus, check of $25 million, It's like, well, if you would have given away even like $5 million of that, you could have given a huge bonus to hundreds of developers that worked on this game that bought you your new third house.
Your new Maserati, yeah. The unfortunate thing is that there's so many things that we're fighting for based on our safety and based on our well-being, and a lot of it is being framed as greedy voice actors who want more money, when like the money part is like a fraction, like 15% of our total argument. So yeah, and the unfortunate thing is we're not against the devs, we feel like this is such a collaborative experience that anytime you make any type of media, like video games or movies or film or television, like that, the fact that anything makes it to your TV screen is a fucking miracle, you guys. Like, and I want to say that to anyone who might be a burgeoning creator themselves, whether it's anything from a web series to an animated show to literally to a fan fiction. Releasing it to the public is a massive success. Getting to that point alone is massive, and it shows that you can deliver and that you're not full of shit. Don't take that for granted. Seriously, to anyone who's a creative in here, if you get something out there, you're doing better than like 90% of creatives out there, because so much of the fear is even getting it out into the public.
Finishing it and putting it out there.
Yeah, so the fact that anything even makes it to us for consumption is insane, and a miracle has to take place. And all the voice actors want is to feel like we are a part of that. And and we know that a lot of these devs or these publishers are going to hire certain people to use their names. That comes with a cost. Like, we busted our asses to get to this point. So all we're wanting is to honestly just feel like we're a part of that creative process with everybody else.